they always think that we're portraying somebody, and we're really us. We're real human beings. Like they're like, oh, you're a real Indian. So yeah, touch my hand. Like I'm real. I'm right here. We're still here. We're still alive.
Who are the Haudenosaunee, the people of the Longhouse? What's their relationship to the American Revolution, the founding of the United States of America? And what is it like to be a Haudenosaunee person today, interpreting history and culture in the public history realm? My guests today on AmRev360 are Jordan Smith and Kehala Smith of the Mohawk and Tuscarora Nations.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Good to see you.
So Jordan and Kehala, when you were down at the Museum for Indigenous Peoples Weekend and were interpreting, Jordan, you were dressed, you had a red coat on, you had a resplendent headdress on. Kehala, you were absolutely stunning in your clothing as well. Could you say a few words about the period that costuming reflects, and just anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, so the clothing that I had on that particular time, I was wearing the red jacket. It's a Rev War officer's coat, British officer's coat. And one of the reasons I always wear the British officer's coat is because predominantly the Mohawk sided with the British through all these conflicts, from the French and Indian War all the way up through the War of 1812. But other than that, the clothing that we're wearing is actually, it extends from even an earlier time period. For instance, the French and Indian War, we're wearing already wool material, silk ribbons, linen shirts. And this is something that's going to kind of be given almost as a gift, given protocol to a lot of Native leaders in our council meetings long ago. But also it shows that, I guess, that interaction, that cultural exchange, that material cultural exchange from European clothing to Native clothing, because we take those materials and we just fashion them the way that we're going to utilize. We get away from the leather, as you can see in the video, and we utilize all of those textiles that are coming in from all over the world. And I mean, it's easier to work with. They come in all those beautiful, vibrant colors, and they're giving them to us in troves because that, again, is part of the protocol. And you want those natives to be aligned with you, and it's in your best interest. And that's one of the ways for you to show that, we really, really want you to be on our side, kind of thing. Oh, the headdress that I was wearing is an Eastern woodland headdress. It's made of porcupine quills around the band, and the hair sticking straight up is dyed moose hair. So we're utilizing all those animals around us, still to this day, to decorate our clothing. Kehala was wearing a mixture of European style clothing as well. She was wearing an overcoat or a bed coat, which was pretty popular long ago as well. Our ladies being so important as clan mothers, as leaders of our community as well. So they're going to also be getting those finer things in those gift-giving protocols.
And Kehala, I know you are a fifth generation beadworker, is that right?
When my mother used to do beadwork back when she was healthy and able to. My grandma, all the way back up 5 generations ago, we used to be some of the original beadworkers that used to sell souvenir pieces at Niagara Falls. But I grew up with traveling, and my mother used to sell her beadwork. I currently sell mine online and in person. It's my passion. I enjoy it. It's like therapy. I don't know. It might sound weird to some, but it's a therapy for me.
Yeah. So if someone wanted to check out your work, maybe follow you on Instagram, how would they find you?
Oh yeah, Creations by Kehala.
Fantastic.
Come find me. I post every day. I create cool things every day and post every day. It's a lot of fun coming up with things to design and stay different and trendy, and it's a good time.
Yeah. And Jordan, you are an educator, I know, as a day job, and you work at one of my favorite historic sites, Old Fort Niagara, which is just a place that everyone north and south of the border should visit at least one point in their life. Can you talk a little bit about your role there at Old Fort Niagara?
Yeah, so at Old Fort Niagara, I'm the head of Native education and programs there. But what I do there is really just educate, the children, the schools that come in, and all the visitors throughout the world that visit us. And I just kind of give them a quick rundown of who the Haudenosaunee people are, the role we play within the development of the continent, not just the United States or Canada. Because for me, music and culture and dance to me is the best way to kind of connect with people, because you don't need to understand the same language to understand good music and the emotions and the feeling behind good song and dance. So that's what I bring to Old Fort Niagara, is that little bit of, that little bit of spice from the native culture, kind of bring that to Fort Niagara. So people are more, they remember that a little more, as far as seeing the soldiers and seeing muskets get fired. But when you actually have native people portraying ourselves, telling our story, that's what kind of, gets solidified in people's minds and memories.
Yeah. So I've certainly witnessed that firsthand, the significance, as you say, of Indigenous people telling their own story, that representation matters so much in the public realm. So because you're gluttons for punishment, I know not only is that sort of Monday through Friday, a lot of weekends, the two of you are on the road as sort of cultural ambassadors. And could you talk a little bit about that work that you do?
So it's just something that, as far as, presentations and education through song and dance, is something I've been doing since I was, I think, 7. So around this time of the year, November comes up and the school systems always have their, Thanksgiving and their Native American unit. And, we had the opportunity at my elementary school to educate my class. And we did an assembly where the whole school came down, and I taught about the music, I taught about the clothing, and we demonstrated some songs and dances. So this is something that I've been doing my whole entire life. My father was an MC and a singer, and he traveled around the world singing and dancing as well. My wife, her family also traveled around the world singing and dancing. So we've actually come together, and, our family has grown from the culture that we were sharing with the world, from the culture that we were getting together and learning with each other as children, but also growing together as adults, which is really, really nice, because without the culture, I don't know where I would be at right now. It's that important and ingrained in my DNA to where I need it.
Beautiful.
I feel like I normally say yes when people reach out and want us to come to their schools or come to their city, their state, their festival, whatever it is, because I feel like it's important that people know that we're still here. We still have our culture. We still practice our culture. We still know our language. We try to pass everything down to our children, our community. So I feel like that's very important. There's just so many, especially children, that don't know that natives are still here.
I'd love to ask a kind of a little bit of a broad question to maybe wrap up our time together, because I know we don't have a ton of time today. But we're approaching the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, the creation of the United States of America. Which can be a challenging, the Declaration of Independence, in listing those charges against King George, has some pretty scurrilous language about Indigenous people. This is, a moment of reflection on a quarter millennium of history that's passed, which actually follows a quarter millennium of engagement between Native people and Europeans. So it's, we're in the half millennium mark, 500 years of interaction. As you think about the years leading up to 2026, are there things that you'd like people to be reflecting on? What are your sort of hopes for what can come out of that moment?
Well, I just hope that, more correct Native history and is being discussed and incorporated within the school systems, because to have one page in your social studies book about the Native people in your local area, to me, is a slap in the face to the Native people of that local area. One of the reasons that I do what I do is so I can get out into these classrooms within these school districts and kind of add to what they already know, but also get a Native perspective on it, because it's only, you can only learn so much from the guy that read everything in a book. Everything I've learned, I've either, researched on my own, or I've lived it and experienced these things. So when I talk about these stories, or, the way our people are still in our communities, this is everything that I've witnessed firsthand. One of the things that I witnessed firsthand in the public school system is the lack of, Indigenous incorporation in the story of the North American continent. because we were pretty important. And I think with that Declaration of Independence, you know, categorizing us in that aspect was one way to get the public to forget the fact that we helped during all of these, you know, conflicts prior to this, you know, this independence from the crown. You know, we were pretty important on in the French and Indian War to help, you know, both sides. And really, I think telling that part of the story is what I'm here to do, to share that education, to share not only with the not Native people, but with Native people as well, because we don't talk about things like that in our own communities. Everything we're learning as far as history, you're either going to have to learn on your own, or that's what the history you're getting in your school system.
Beautiful. Kehala, I'd love to give you the final word on that.
I just feel like it's really, that's the way we can stay strong and stay strong for the next 7 generations, is to teach and share what we know to the next generation.
Fantastic. Well, Jordan and Kehala, I really enjoyed the time we had together this morning. I know we'll see you back at the Museum of the American Revolution soon. And until then, keep up the incredible work that you're doing to keep culture alive, to share that with more broadly through our communities, and to explore this amazing history of our intertwined peoples.